All right. Welcome back, my regular viewers, listeners, and watchers. And of course, if you happen to be here for the very first time, welcome. Before I go any further, my name is Rahul George, India's premier iHypnosis coach and your personal guide. So, today's special pod, we are now officially into pod number 3, and I have a truly amazing guest that I've reached out to, and I know especially for you as digital coaches on your journey. In fact, that really is the reason why the iHypnosis coaching journeys podcast was created with you in mind. And my intention is to always find truly amazing people out there, truly amazing digital coaches out there wanting to make a difference and living life on these terms. And so the person that I'm about to introduce you to now, Archana, is somebody who is literally living this. And, ever since I met her in 2022, uh, I've always, really looked forward to our conversations. And, it's especially as fellow travelers on the journey, when you meet people, whether you meet them in workshops, whether you meet them in seminars, there's this connection which is different from, the connections that we make with, let's say, people who are acquaintances. And ever since I, bumped into Archana, we've always had that connection. And so, this is that moment where, of course, Archana, do turn on your camera, and it's always fun catching up. And I know we've had some conversations off and on um, over the years, I should say now, including some very fantastical train rides. More on that, of course, as we go deeper into this conversation. But this is just me, inviting you, and thank you for actually making the time to be here and show up. Like they say, when you show up ahead of time, that says a lot, and every little thing matters. So with that, of course, welcome Archana to the iHypnosis coaching journeys. And I truly believe that, what you are about to share today is really going to make that difference in the lives of so many, whether it be coaches who are on the journey, whether it be parents who are, looking after their children. So with that, over to you.
Thank you, Rahul. A huge thank you for this is truly an honor to be here because it's been 2 years, almost 1.5 to 2 years
Mm.
since I've known you. Like you rightly mentioned, our conversations have been fantastic, to say the for probably not knowing a better word. But it's let me also tell you that there were so many moments and conversations that we've had that has opened up my mind to so many possibilities.
Mm.
Um, be it just about a few days back when we had a conversation about this pod, or the
Mm.
train ride that you were just talking about. It's been truly an honor and a pleasure to interact and get to
Mm.
know somebody who has such deep level of understanding when it comes to life, when it comes to how things work, and especially about people. So thank you, um, and I'm so blessed, truly grateful to you.
Thank you for saying that. And I'm just literally taking all of this in because, like I said, we are right now on pod number 3, and there are many different things that are happening at the same time. From time to time, I may kind of switch, my eyes may kind of dart here and there, looking at the other tabs. So, I'm completely here, and I really am I feel so glad that, like literally pod number 3, and you're here and we're having these conversations because even when I came up with this idea, my intention was to find, people who are different, people who are special, and and you're here. So on that note, of course, just to give people an idea of what you do. So it's like saying, basically, so Archana, what's the journey been like for you? Like, how did you get here? Right. So I'm sure our listeners, our viewers, and our watchers would love to know more about your journey.
Yes, thank you. I mean, you made me feel so special with that just one sentence. Thank you. I did listen to the other two podcasts, Sriman
Mm,
Parnas. What a conversation you've had,
mm,
and I was truly looking forward to us talking because there are so many things that we've discussed offline too.
mm,
But I just so having said that, let me just start off by saying that I am a coach who trains children on public speaking and communication, groom them to be better at what they can express their ideas with, especially when it comes to conversing with people or in a classroom.
mm,
So that's what I do right now. However, I'd like to start off by saying that um, training was always there on my mind because that
mm,
I back in uh, the early 2000s is when I
mm,
joined a multinational company. I was working there for a really long time, and even there I used to do trainings. So
mm.
training and coaching was my passion
Right.
right from the beginning. And when my daughter was born in
Mm,
2010, I took a break because I really wanted to kind of not leave her alone. I wanted to give my undivided attention to
mm,
her. So with that in mind, I took a 3-year break, and I didn't really want to go back to the corporate world because you know how it works.
mm.
So I would not probably have done justice to whatever I had
Right.
taken. That's the first thing. Second, I really wanted to be around when she grew up, when she
Mm,
was, kind of getting to all those milestones that were there. I didn't really
right.
want to miss those. But once she was off to school, the training itch,
Mm,
is always something that resurfaces. So that's
right.
when I started training middle management and
Mm,
new hires on soft skills, because
mm,
that's something that they were looking for at that point of time, and I was in a
mm,
collaboration with someone. But I had no clue about the digital world. I did not
right.
know that they were training beyond physical classrooms that existed.
Mm,
Uh, so it kind of, yeah, I got bored with the, kind of the entire corporate setup,
mm,
because that's exactly what I wanted to run away from.
right.
And that's when I discovered that there were so many students out there who really
Mm,
need those skills. So we
right.
began a campus to corporate kind of trainings.
Nice.
So that's also, a place where I realized that there is so much of importance
Mm,
that is not given to soft skills, but that's a
mm,
make or break. When even when I took interviews, I would always look out for people who would be able to express themselves.
right.
So that was the kind of the the root,
Mm,
the seed to
mm,
where I wanted. And this was somehow done for some time, and then along the lines, I realized that when I was training others, my
mm,
daughter herself was finding it very
mm,
difficult to speak.
right.
When it
Okay.
came to classrooms, there were so many
Mm,
complaints that
mm,
she's only talking what is not required, and the regular
mm,
things that go on. So that is when I asked my daughter, what
right.
exactly is your problem? She said, no,
Mm,
I'm not able to express what I'm doing. And she was kind of channelizing her energy into something. And she was, what, about 7, 8 years old at that time.
wow.
So that's when I kind of, okay, thought, let me move away from
Mm,
students who are looking for, I only used to, train postgraduates at that point of time. Let me try and see how I can help my daughter out. And that's how it started.
right.
So as in, I started teaching her a few things.
Mm,
We did it in a fun way, because when
mm,
you
yeah.
sit a child down, it's never going to work. So on the journey, I did also meet a few of my own friends, their
Mm,
children, and the place where I used to live in the apartment. So that's where I took one or two people,
right.
one or two children, and that's how
Mm,
we kind of vibed. Basically,
mm,
we just had a
mm,
good time. So
mm,
that's when I also realized that there's so many children who really require
right.
this. Just the way we were talking a few minutes ago,
Mm,
I really think communication, soft skills,
mm,
public speaking, debates should be a part of the curriculum.
right.
Um, so since it's not there in our education system, I thought might as well help
Nice.
the other kids. So here I am, and that's also when the it was probably a little before COVID that I
Mm,
discovered this entire world of digital coaching,
right.
and it kind of blew my mind. I knew that I could reach out to more children,
Right.
although some of them say, no, 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 you can't really learn
Mm,
anything online, especially
mm,
when it comes to public speaking. No, there
mm,
are ways of learning, and that's when it was a journey of self discovery for me also. Oh, wow, there's so many things that we can learn.
right.
That kind of opened up opportunities, and
Mm,
that
yes.
also kind of opened my own mind up in
Mm,
terms of not restricting to just going to schools or
right.
doing things in a
Mm,
certain boxed manner,
mm,
but there are possibilities. And after COVID, of course, it was like
mm,
it kind of blew things up to the next level, especially when it comes to digital coaching.
mm,
So here I am. I Right now I do a hybrid model for children.
right.
I do stay in Bangalore. So
Mm,
in Bangalore, there are, in-person classes that I do
nice.
if it is possible.
Mm,
But I see that the traction on online is not really it hasn't really come down
mm,
yet, because there are so many children whose parents are working and
mm,
they really can't take a child out, or maybe there are some other challenges that a family might have, and
mm,
it is so much more easy for a
right.
child to learn on a digital platform,
Mm,
even without kind of stepping out. Or
true.
i I can That's when I also realized that I can do justice to both
Mm,
digital platform as well as the
mm,
offline mode.
right.
So that's where I am.
Awesome. So I'm curious because when I was sort of like I myself was having flashbacks when you were talking about being being a trainer, a corporate trainer, and then
Yes.
one phase was that, one phase was the okay, I want to get out of this, and I don't want to be
Yes.
a corporate trainer. And why do I say that? Because that was my story as well.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
Granted, of course, I didn't do the conventional, PPT driven, training or whatever it be, but
Right.
still, in a very interesting way, I had, both those phases of, okay, from advertising to, okay, I want to, okay, maybe I can, be a trainer, and then
Okay.
did the training, and then I was like, I reached a point when I was like, I don't want to train.
Huh.
So again, it's
Yes. Yes.
every let me put it this way, every coach has that training journey, and
Yes.
then things kind of change along the way, and then of
Yes.
course there is this global event that no one was not no one was not um, affected by, meaning everybody had some
Yes.
um, some connection to it, and here we are today so many years later,
Yes.
right? So I'm
Yes.
curious to know, like, what was that in your story, meaning um, what what made that shift happen from, okay, in a frame of I'm a trainer, which is a certain kind of mindset, to I'm a coach, which is a very different mindset, right? Especially today, we know, because we have, let's say, role models, or we have examples of coaches,
Yes.
versus in the training context, there was always kind of like the plain vanilla, and everybody kind of
Yes.
wanted to fit in the
Yes.
training world, right? So I'm curious to know, what was that journey like? Like, what made that shift happen?
Oh wow, lovely. And that I love that, the yes, all of us can be trainers if we really intend, but not
Mm,
everybody can be coaches. So I think it was around 2020 that I realized it's a
mm,
different world out there where people are not just giving knowledge, because that's the kind of
mm,
uh, you know I guess the environment that we
mm,
were tuned to, especially when you're working for a company.
mm,
That is when I realized that there is so much more we can add value. Of course, we
mm,
have this in us, but we have a set lesson plan, as they call it,
right.
to train people on a certain level, get them to kind of develop those skill sets that are required to survive, and,
Mm,
and then your job is done.
right.
That's it. And then you wait for the next batch to come. So, well, that exactly is a trainer mindset. But
Mm,
a coach mindset is, how can I help you elevate your
mm,
own your own self, not just your skill sets.
correct.
That's what I realized when I got in
Mm,
touch with certain mentors, and I saw that they were going above and beyond.
right.
And that's the time I realized the difference between a trainer and a
Mm,
coach. I knew that I could handle a class of maybe more than 1,000 students, let them know, exactly what they need to know,
Mm.
but how can I make it better for them, so
Mm.
they can actually
Right.
shatter those barriers that
Mm.
they've put themselves on. That's the realization, and it was around the time when the entire world was at
Mm.
home, and we were
Mm.
seeing these many mentors who came
Right.
online, who told that, what, I'll teach you, but I will also make you implement, I will also make you,
Mm.
go beyond it. So
Mm.
that's the time I realized that
Awesome.
there is a coaching world which is so
Mm.
much different
Mm.
than just
Beautiful.
the training world.
Mm.
And I also realized that this
Mm.
is exactly what I was doing with my daughter and her friends, because
Right.
I was helping them learn something, but I was
Mm.
also telling them that it's fine. It need
Mm.
not be done in a certain way. It
Mm.
can be done in a different way. When you say trainers, it's like you're going in one
Mm.
track. But here,
Mm.
as a coach, you have so many things
Mm.
to impart. Yes, but
Mm.
more than anything else, for them also to imbibe certain things and,
Right.
yeah, break
Awesome.
those barriers, like I said.
Mm. Awesome. Awesome. So yeah, I mean, hearing you, there was this phase, right?
Mhm.
And in this context, because I know you mentioned mentors, and one
Yes,
part of like being, especially during COVID, there was a lot of relearning that was happening, and there was a lot of learning that was happening, right?
yes, yes,
So when it came to you learning the digital side of things, because obviously till 2020 nobody really even knew of this brand called Zoom, and probably the closest you might have come in the pre 2019s would have been Skype, right? For most of
yes.
us, that was like suddenly if you had, let's say, a US based or some other, typically US based client wanting to connect,
Mm.
Skype was one of the one of the ways to connect, right? And then of course
Correct.
post 2020 was 2020 and beyond was the world of Zoom. So sort of like share a little bit about what was that part of your journey when it came to uh, your realization that okay, you know, marketing, sales, like these are things that are that I want to learn, right? Or I need to learn. Like what was that part of the journey like for you?
Oh, that hits a raw nerve,
Doesn't it for most of us as coaches?
Yeah, yeah. I love that you mentioned how we had to relearn a few
Mm,
things. Also, kind of, it was so important for me to unlearn the trainer aspect of my, my style
correct.
of teaching. So that's the unlearning part. The relearning was, of course, like you said, the
Mm,
entire thing about technology,
mm,
which I know for a fact that any new coach who comes into the industry would have just one word, that is overwhelm.
right,
So many tools, so many things to do. I love what you said again, what I want to learn or what I need to learn.
right.
um, and the need was much more
Mm,
at that point of time.
mm,
So that's the phase where um, you everybody was doing everything, and there was
correct.
also so much of, it was busy on the internet.
Beautifully said. Busy.
Uh,
Mm,
so so it's like, we that's I guess we that's a point where all us as
mm,
coaches went on a buying spree. Like
yes.
all the tools that was out there, all the mentors that are, "Yeah, I want to learn this, I want." So that
Mm,
kind of was so overwhelming, Rahul. In
mm,
fact, it was so overwhelming that I took a
mm,
step back. I said, you know what, and I did implement them, but I think it didn't really work out the way I
mm,
envisioned it. So that is when I thought, I'm going to, just
mm,
stay away from this, because there's too much to do.
right.
I thought it was simple, but it is
Mm,
not that. I guess that's the realization you have when,
yeah.
you're bombarded with so many
Mm,
things, so many mentors, so many tools,
mm,
so many processes to follow, and
yeah.
the funnels. One person is saying
True.
something, the another one is
True.
saying something else. So this is when I took a step back. I said,
Mm,
I'm not doing this. And much to my my own surprise and shock,
mm.
I chose to go back to working again, but not for
Oh,
a
okay.
corporate. But this time
Mm,
I had a choice of,
right.
choosing what I really wanted to do. But I
Mm,
was very clear about training children. So I
nice.
actually went back to working for someone else, which I really didn't want to do at that
Mm,
right at the, to begin with,
mm,
when I started. restarted, that is, my career as a trainer. So it kind of pushes you to the edge, and it does take some time to get the hang of it, and also to understand that it is okay not to be present everywhere at all the times by
Right.
everything. So of course I had to go through that learning.
Mm.
So I actually went back to working for another company
Wow.
as a coach this time,
Mm.
because of course we'll come to that later, but
Mm.
that's how the tools and things kind of
Right.
overwhelm me.
Yeah. That's, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about the
Mm.
overwhelm, simply because um, I've been there many, many times. And, I mean, just to put this into context, my journey in the context of digital marketing began in 2016, right? So I
Oh,
kind of,
that's like nascent
yeah,
stages.
yeah. So I have this very good, bad habit, I don't know, but this knack of
Okay.
finding things that are like probably like one or two cycles before it kind of mainstreams, right? And I'm saying this
Yes.
because if I look at the last 20 years, that's been a repetitive thing.
Yes.
So, uh, keeping this to your story rather than mine, I'm just saying, I get it. I mean, I completely get what you're saying. And so I think it's beautiful to also hear what that was like, that feeling of overwhelm, and you know what was that part of your journey like?
Yeah, at the beginning, so I'll give you different stages that a person, I think most of us can relate to it, because some
Mm.
of the our friends from the
Mm.
same coaching background can agree with this. It starts off with, oh, I can do it. It's simple. If
Mm.
I could work somewhere, if I am someone,
Mm.
if I'm an engineer, I can always figure that out. So
Mm.
it's always that, yeah, I can do that phase that a person goes through
Mm.
first.
Mm.
And then you see so many things coming in your way, and you want to do this. Oh, should I learn this? Yes. Okay. Do I need to take this? Do I need to take that? And then it's the phase where, oh, okay, there is
Mm.
much more than what I thought that needs to be done phase.
Right.
So past that is, oh my god, can I do it, the self
Mm.
doubt phase.
Mm.
And that's also when you start seeing others who are doing really well. Some
Mm.
of them are technically good, some of them are excellent when it comes to videos, some
Mm.
of them are super good with social media marketing. So
Mm.
that's when you start seeing, and that's the comparison phase.
Mm.
Okay, that person is doing it, they can do it, why can't I do it? Oh,
Mm.
I think I'm not good enough. So
Right.
that's the huge self doubt phase.
Mm.
uh
What was that
and
like
and
for you?
Oh, I I also, there were times when I used to stay awake late in the night just to try and figure out what I need to do,
Mm.
and what is important at that point of time. But it was all confusion all the way. When I would
Yes.
start off with something, leave it
Mm.
halfway, and get back to something else. So all this was like a khichdi,
Mm.
everything was mixed up. And that is
Yeah.
also when your family starts questioning you, like, why are
Correct.
you even doing this? You can, there's always a job that you have, why don't you just focus on that?
Right. Right.
So that's the next phase, self doubt. And
Mm.
I also got to that that trigger point where I said, okay, I'm
Mm.
giving it all up. I don't want to do this. I'm happy working for someone else. Let someone
Mm.
else do my marketing. I'll do what I'm
Right.
passionate about. And
Right.
we coaches have that, oh, I'm so, I'm so passionate about sharing my knowledge. But then again, you are not able to do what you really want to do,
Correct.
because it's not in your hands, it's someone else's company.
Mm.
So you need to stick to certain rules and certain,
Mm.
although you I was given that liberty to do it my way. It
Mm.
always is there in the back of your mind saying, okay, I
Mm.
wish if I had not given up, maybe I could have done this differently phase
Mm.
that you'll go through. And then of course the self realization that, oh, no, no, no,
Mm.
I think I need to get back. So that's the
Nice.
overwhelm, I feel,
Mm.
phase that most of us go through. I'm
Mm.
not saying it's exclusive or it's something that I
Mm.
alone went through it. I see
Mm.
so many of my friends also, but some of them are good enough to, kind of keep doing it, and they have this stubborn streak in them. Yes,
Mm.
I really admire these coaches.
Mm.
They just don't give up, and I think um, that's where we need to channelize our
Mm.
energy and thought process.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's so true because everything that you talked about, I've experienced as well,
Hmm.
in like small waves and big waves,
Yeah.
right? And like you said, the word that came to my mind as I was listening to you was grit. So it's like the
Oh, perfect. Yes, yes, that's the word. The grit to, kind of stay put to what you
Hmm,
really want to do.
hmm,
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. Yes.
right?
Did you go through this, Rahul? I'm asking the question back
100%.
to you.
No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
100%. 100%. I'm saying I've had many phases of I need to do this, I should do this, I am doing
yeah,
this, then what's the point of doing this? And
yeah.
then it's like, screw it, like chuck it all, right? And then
Yes.
it's cyclical, which is a good thing.
Mm,
So they came back that point where I realized, okay, no, I really do want to do this, because it's not. So let me put it this way: I did like probably a couple of cycles of this until I
mm.
got to that point where I was able to get out of my own self, my own way.
Uh-huh.
That is one of the biggest reasons for me that has got me here, right?
Mm.
Of course, we'll probably during the course of our conversation today, at in the right amount of chunks, I'll kind of like share a little bit about that. But
Yes.
so since you've shared this
Mm.
and your journey and the the many different things that you tried and you explored and you sort of went through the cycles, so to speak, and that's why you're here today as well, right? You're doing
Yes.
things, you're creating things, in some ways you're recreating things. But I really want to know, like, if you, as you kind of reflect back, as they say, hindsight 2020, right? uh, what would you say are maybe two or three, um, like some people call it mistakes, but it's like things that it's like you're glad now that it happened then.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll take a moment to just think through
Hmm.
this. Let me start off by saying that yes, I love how you put that. That at that point of time it seemed a mistake, or it
Mm.
seemed something that, but later I realized it is for the greater good, or
Correct.
for the better, at least when
Yeah.
it comes to my own life.
Mm.
Um, Even before 2020, Rahul, there was a certain phase where I kind of wanted to fit into a
Mm.
certain, um, I would not call it typecast of,
Sure.
but I wanted to fit into a certain group of individuals.
Mm.
But inside me it was like, I don't fit in here.
Right.
um, I wouldn't be a typical mother who would, just hang out, and
Mm.
I didn't want to be that and go shopping,
Mm.
catch a movie, then go for coffee, and
Mm.
it never resonated with me ever.
Mm.
But I kind of, and I wouldn't blame anyone else. It was my choice that I
Mm.
tried to do what every typical mom at that point of
Right.
time with children after school was doing. But to say the least, I really felt suffocated. I really
Mm.
felt kind of trapped inside. But I didn't break. I wish I had, kind of explored the digital market
Mm.
much before, but I chose not to.
Mm.
That was the first, um, I think,
Ah.
misstep on my part. But
Mm.
I guess it was necessary because I realized what I didn't want.
And this would have been in a timeline context, like somewhere around what?
18, 19, 2018,
Oh,
19.
so okay, got it. So just before
Yeah,
the
yeah,
wave, right? Okay,
yes,
got it.
yes. And I think COVID came at a time when I was ready to, kind of break myself away from
Mm.
this entire, let's go for coffee, let's catch a movie kind of
Right,
phase.
right.
So I think it came at the right time. I also tried to, kind of do things the
Mm.
conventional way.
Mm.
I knew I was a misfit in a group like that.
Mm.
I really wanted to do something much beyond, and I think
Mm.
every woman at some point of time would feel that I'm just, I think I'm made for better things.
Mm.
That's the realization I had. So had I not gone through those things, and
Mm.
yeah, it was a pretty difficult phase for me in
Sure.
terms of, um, I trying to accept, I mean, I was trying too hard
Right.
to for others to accept me and to fit into a
Mm.
certain mold, and
Mm.
it was just not me. And I really was looking, and that's exactly when I was looking for things
Mm,
for a better,
mm,
want of a better word. I think I was really ready for a change,
mm.
to kind of
Nice.
see what life can offer,
Mm,
and that's exactly when the entire
mm. What did that moment feel
history got
like
changed.
when you kind of you had this? Yeah, I'm ready for a change. What did that?
Ah,
Yeah.
oh. It was like waking up from some kind of a
Mm,
bad dream. Number
beautiful.
one.
Wow.
Second is, you kind of start feeling so excited, still frightened of
Mm,
what's in store, and you'll also try and you're confused about how to kind of let go of that
mm,
old avatar of you.
mm.
Um, that it was for about a month. I was in that confused state of mind where
Wow.
um, I really didn't want to do
Mm,
what I was doing, but I was ready. And there were so many times when I would, just kind of
mm,
go. And I would be a recluse.
mm.
So that's the phase that I went through, where
Wow.
I just didn't want to talk. I did go through a little bit of,
Mm,
a mental trauma too, for a lot of things, but it was the realization that it was me. It was my choices. It
right.
was what I did to myself, and I wouldn't.
Mm,
When you go through that blaming, revenge, and the
mm,
victim mode to
right.
a more a particular mindset where you take responsibility,
Mm,
that's a beautiful transition. I think each of
mm,
us have experienced at some point of time. i
mm,
I would love all of them to just probably take a moment and think of that phase
mm,
when you shed your old avatar and you
mm,
realize that there's something else also you want to do.
right.
And once you have that intention, things just fall in place.
Mm, wow. To me, listening to this right now, what popped into my head also, the way you described it, it also sounds like the process of grieving, where you, like, I think they call it like the 6 steps of grieving, something to
Mhm.
that effect, right? It's like the, where you don't agree, where you want to
Yes,
fight it.
yes,
Then there's like that phase of, when I say depression, as in it's the, in the context of, like wanting to
yes,
give up. And then eventually you kind of like make peace with yourself. And
yes,
that is where the healing gets deeper, right? And then you get to carry those lessons with you into, whatever it is that you're doing. So as a coach, it's your venture, it's the collaborations and all of that. You bring yourself in a more revitalized, strengthened, I have something to share with you, with the world kind of way, right?
spoken like a true NLP slash hypnosis expert. I Oh wow, I think this is an apt way of
Mm,
summing up whatever I said in the last 2 or 3 minutes.
mm,
Yes, yes, yeah, you go through those 6 phases, eventually realizing
mm,
that it's just me. I think I need to work on myself.
mm,
So perfect. Yes,
mm.
couldn't have said it better,
That's
Rahul.
very powerful, what you just said. Like when you actually realize that there is that new, it's like your new voice
Yeah.
is telling you this, right? I really need
Yes.
to, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
somewhere I want to. So it's no longer coming from societal pressure. It's no longer coming from what people expect of me. It's more sort of inner driven. And
Yes.
I sense, again, because of our conversations from the past, I sense that you are now in that phase where uh, it's more like an inner driver rather than uh, what could be, what should be, what must be, right?
Yes. Yes. And I think eventually we get into um that that phase of life
Mm,
where you're very happy with the
yes.
way you are,
Mm,
and I really feel liberated.
yeah, that's
I,
it.
I I
Yeah.
really don't want to kind of impress someone,
Yeah.
or go to a certain social gathering just because what will people say. You Because there are so many
Mm,
things that we really want to do,
mm,
which would kind of be. And once you become this coach,
yeah.
you're thinking, how can I change other people, how can
Correct.
I make it better for someone else? So and so it's I think a place I would urge all of you,
Mm.
to kind of go to, because that's when
Mm.
you also evolve as a coach.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
It just kind of reminded me of, when we talk about doing shadow work, right?
Okay.
It's sort of like saying embracing our dark side, embracing that side that,
Yes.
especially because we are like wearing the cloak, and like, right, the mantle of a coach. I'm supposed to know everything. I'm perfect.
Yes.
I'm supposed to be, fill in the blanks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we finally have that,
Mm.
there's this expression of the dark night of the soul, where finally we have that moment of, before the breakthrough, of, okay, I need to address who I am. I need to
Yes.
address who I'm not. I need to
Yes.
address who I think others want me to be. I need to address, what I want them to think of me. And there's so many of these permutations and combinations until eventually they all sort of like come together, and there's this, like you have the atomic, fissions, like that one moment where everything collides and there's like poof, there's this
Yes.
big
Yes.
explosion, all happening inside, by the way, right?
Correct.
And then you emerge and you're smiling, and people are like, what's she on, right? What's she
Yeah.
smoking, right?
And there's that sense of calm,
Yes.
it's like, it doesn't matter. Oh, this is so beautiful. I mean, I think this is exactly, and it's not something which just one person goes
Mm,
through, especially in the coaching world. I
mm,
think we all go through those phases, and
yeah,
I'm still working on a few things.
yeah,
It's an ongoing
yeah.
process, I think.
Hearing you say this, it reminds me of like the way, let's say, not media, but the way, say, for example, the hero's journey is talked about, right?
Yes.
Typically, it's sort of made to seem like it's a one-time thing. Like your whole life led you to this one point, and then you had your, dark night of the soul. Then you kind of like
Yeah.
had your realizations, and now you have these special powers, and you go back to where you started with the new um, the new scales or whatever it be, right? Or
Yes.
the new
Yes.
wisdom.
Yes.
But the point is, it's not just one journey, one time in our lives, right? So a lot of times it's
Yes.
also how things are painted, how things are um, shown. That, oh, you
Hmm.
just have this one moment and then that's it. No,
Hmm.
I believe that
Hmm.
you, in wanting, let's say, in desiring to be more of who you are, we will have multiple heroes journeys, so to speak.
Yes.
It's like, to put it in another context, as coaches, we will have the the 1 lakh version, we will have the 1 crore version, we will have the 1 million version, right? What am I talking about? Like when you get to a place where your billing is, let's say, 1 lakh, your billing is
Hmm.
1 crore, your billing is 1 million, right? Like whatever, 7
Yes.
8 crores. In each of those phases, you will have that same chakra, you will have that same, मैं समय हूँ kind of a thing, where you
Yes.
will go through these until you get to that point where you kind of emerge with the ability to be able to hold that space,
Yes.
right? Speaking of, so you share a very, very powerful, the first thing, which was the, your first story basically was all about, oh, I should have started earlier, but I didn't. But here I am today. What is it, like 18, 19? So that's almost 5 years now, right?
Yes.
Which is
Yes.
beautiful. Like you, because it started there, but you are here now, right? And you're already
Correct.
ready for your next hero's journey, so to speak, right? What would you say was another moment, as you reflect back on the last maybe, decade, 2 decades of your professional journey? Like what would be, or even could be in a personal context, but this one other thing that, shaped who you are, and you're glad that it happened now. Then of course, you were like, why is it happening to me? But now you kind of reflect back and you're like, yeah, actually I'm really glad that it did, because I get to be this person that shows up like this today.
Hmm. I think I can think of something that recently happened. You
Okay.
remember I told you I went back to working for a
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
This connected back to someone actually telling
Ooh.
me some time back that this was when you usually you kind of share your thoughts with certain
Hmm.
people who you
Hmm.
think are friends. And
Hmm.
a long time ago, I think 2016-17 is when I thought I had, kind of
Hmm.
spoken to a friend saying,
Hmm.
this I would like to probably start something on my own,
Hmm.
or kind of probably do be an entrepreneur or something. And
Hmm.
that's exactly when he said, no, I think you have an employee mindset.
Wow.
um, you can never have a
Wow.
business or a company of your own.
Hmm.
And I let that kind of sit in my mind, and that's exactly,
Amazing.
I think, why
Amazing.
there was a delay in the entire
Hmm.
thing. Because
Wow.
sometimes what happens here is you get so kind of sucked into
Hmm.
someone else's thought process
Correct.
that you don't find that confidence to move forward.
Hmm.
You look for validation, you start fearing things, and
Hmm.
you're probably so scared to take actions. I still am when it comes
Hmm.
to certain things, but I
Hmm.
let that kind of
Hmm.
get to my head. uh, and now I'm so glad that
Hmm.
I went through that experience, and it kind of reminds me time and again that I'm not someone
Hmm.
uh, who needs to be what the other person thinks about.
Nice.
So that was the second
Hmm.
thing that I had that in mind for so long. But
Hmm.
I think if I had started that, whatever I thought of in 2016 or 17, I don't know. I'm just, kind of thinking,
Yeah.
looking at a half glass full. I
Mhm.
might not have the maturity at that point of time, or
Right.
maybe I wasn't
Hmm.
really ready. I didn't know how things worked.
Hmm.
Maybe I would have had a bigger failure that would probably never have
Hmm.
given me that hope of starting again.
Wow.
So when I went back,
Amazing.
so connecting that to the
Hmm.
time when I went back to working again,
Hmm.
I was actually kind of underestimating myself. I thought, oh, yeah, I think I'm really not made for something
Right.
like this. I guess I'm just an employee all through.
Wow.
Uh, but it did, like I said, it did take some time for me to realize that
Hmm.
I think I'm good enough. But of course, we'll come to the to probably what I realized a little later. I know
Hmm.
that so I just want to kind of keep it
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
this particular question. So
Amazing.
this was another challenge, or
Beautiful.
yeah.
Wow. That's
There are
so
things that
powerful.
happen at the right time.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
is why when you and I were going on a train ride, and you said there are times things happen, people say something, it is
Right.
all meant for a greater good.
Wow.
When you said this, it kind of
Wow.
has stayed in my mind for all these days.
Wow. Wow.
And did
That's
you know that I quit after that journey and after that FPR?
I had a sense of it, and I know we had one or two conversations, and I knew they were like it was more of an intuition that there was like things
Yes,
happening.
yes,
Uh, like hearing you say this, it just reminds me that um, for the people that we are, for the vocation that we have answered to, right? It's like you answer the call, right? A vocation I believe
yes,
it's a call, it's a calling. So for coaches who've already answered that, right? Like this is a classic. I mean, it's a great example that you don't know the impact of what you're saying that's happening in someone else's life, right? Like as in how powerful it can be, how transformative it can be, because it doesn't only mean that it's in your the content, or it's in your programs, or whatever it is, right? Your communities, I mean, all of that is important, but it's even in these moments where when we are truly connected to something that's bigger than us, something that's beyond us, right? So I
yes,
know that and I have some sense of when that conversation was happening. I think we were taking the Shatabdi to Chennai,
yes,
right? Last
yes,
last
yes,
April,
yes,
and I know that it wasn't just a conversation where we just like throwing stuff around. We were genuinely connected, right? When we were having that
yes,
conversation, and
yes,
which is why it just kind of reminds me that this role that we've been given, this opportunity that we've been given to genuinely hold that space for other people, is it really is powerful, and it really is transformative, to say the least, right? So
yes,
and thank you for kind of like closing that loop for me, and as a reminder that like everything that we sense, everything that we share in the moment, whether it's, in a format like this, where it's going live and becomes a podcast, I mean, as a podcast as well, or even in these, chance conversations that we have, like everything matters, and everything,
Yes.
it's like seeds, right? The right
Mhm.
seeds will fall and take root at just the right time,
Correct.
so I mean, thank you for saying that. And
Uh,
yeah, go ahead.
no, I mean, I have to thank you, because that conversation, see, this is what, like, I just want to,
Mm,
kind of expand on what you just mentioned. It becomes so important to pay attention to
mm,
the interactions we have, especially with people we feel connected to,
mm,
because you never know. And
correct.
I think, you were able to bring that element out in just those one or two sentences,
Mm,
and it kind of got me thinking, and that's when, the things start rolling.
right.
So
Mm.
yeah, I have to thank you, Rahul.
And thank you genuinely, I'm saying, like, thank you for also being willing to, in the moment, feeling it and sharing it here, because like I said, uh the beautiful thing that, the world that we live in today, what we're creating is not just a momentary thing. It's not just a, like a what do you call it, a Facebook story, where it sort of is, it lives on the internet for 24 hours and then it pretty much
Mm,
disappears, right? Like this,
mm,
what we're
mm,
sharing here, I believe that, um, in so many senses of the word, it is timeless.
mm,
And whether someone's watching this, right now, later in the year, 2 years from now, doesn't really matter, because the, like, our human minds, our human behavior, our beliefs are still, they take the longest, and yet they, so let me put it this way: our beliefs take the longest to change, but they can change in an instant. And that's
yes.
what makes it so crazy, right? I mean, on the one hand, in an instant you can have a new belief, right? But they take the longest to change, in the sense, we once we have a belief, we hold on to it forever, until, right? So
Yes. Yes.
so
Yes.
so
Oh,
I truly believe that, for someone listening to this, even if they heard like two or three words, the way it was said, I know it will create that ripple of transformation in their lives. And of course, we may or may not even get to know about it directly,
true.
so that's why I'm saying, like, genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for actually saying it out loud, right? So keeping in mind, like I said, there's the power of threes, right?
Hmm.
So what would be maybe a third um, moment or a story that that to you was like, yeah, now when I think about it, I'm glad it happened,
Hmm.
because this has given me even more impetus, even more energy to keep showing up, uh,
Hmm.
in doing and in being the person that I am today.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the third one, I think, was when I was called to school. Um, when my daughter was,
Mm,
being, kind of, she's someone who's extremely energetic,
mm,
somebody who has a lot of that positive vibes. she's
mm,
she's always been like that. She was an extra, even now she's an extra enthusiastic
mm,
child who loves people around her, who loves to have a good time, and who loves that positive
mm,
energy around her. So but to, kind of, to reprimand, I would say, a child,
mm.
especially when she's, in a second grade, third grade, and to say that, she's disturbing the class, I don't know
Mm.
why. That, I think, was my turning point, where I
Wow.
thought, okay, let me channelize it in a
Mm.
different way. Of course, there are certain rules that we stick to in our education
True.
system, with all due respect
Mm.
to the institution and the teachers, because they are only trying to see how they
Correct.
can make a better
Correct.
environment. Of course, I would not blame anyone else there. It would be probably us as parents who would need to work probably extra
Mm.
when it comes to certain
Mm.
things, because we know what is best for our child. That is exactly when, at that point of time, I was extremely
Mm.
upset, Rahul. I also, my daughter and I had a
Mm.
huge disagreement, and she was really young at that point of time.
Mm.
But that's when I also realized that this is where I need to, kind
Right.
of level up as a parent first, and second, yes, whatever skill sets, whatever knowledge I've had, because
Mm.
I've loved being on stage since I was a a child.
Mm,
I always wondered why they did not do this. So that is exactly when I said, okay, I'm going to give her things that she does
mm.
not get at school.
Wow.
So at that point, yes, I was very upset. I think I was upset for about 2 weeks or so, and
Mm,
there's so many complaints coming in, so many things that she doesn't focus, and
mm,
I think we all go through that as mothers.
mm,
We get extremely upset after our parent-teacher meetings,
mm,
because there's something or the other that is lacking in a child, and
mm,
um, that's also a point where I realized that it is so important for our children
mm.
to have that expression,
Right.
a space to express themselves
Mm,
without inhibitions, without rules and regulations. So that
mm.
was, yeah, another point.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. So, all of this kind of reminds me of it's like, the work that we're doing, we're not doing it in isolation. We're doing it with an intention of, creating a space, which,
Hmm.
of course, we also call a community, which means, we there's something that connects us. There's something that you could say binds us
Hmm.
in a positive way,
Hmm.
because that's what keeps the community together, right?
Hmm.
So what's been your experience of building community, of being in community, as you kind of reflect on your journey so far?
Oh, you are one example, yes, because we
Hmm.
met because we were in a
Mm,
community. I understood the power of community when, like, let me rewind back to the time when I
mm,
was really ready for a change.
mm,
I was really looking for like minded people,
mm.
people who had that drive, people who thought they are meant for better things, people who
Right.
really didn't want to ideally sit at home.
Mm,
It's like a couch potato, and I really didn't want that. So
mm,
for me to get out of the environment, we are social beings, right?
mm.
You need to look for a new environment. That's, I
Mm.
guess, where the transition happens, right?
Right.
The evolution is
Mm.
when you search for a better
Correct.
environment for yourself.
Correct.
So that is exactly when I got into the entire ILH community, and
Mm,
that is when I said, okay, this was also when I realized, oh wow, there are people like me,
mm,
probably better than me, that I can learn from.
mm,
And that is also when I realized that if you really want to do something, if you really want certain people in your life,
mm.
it it comes about. There are
Right.
I never knew how it would work, because I'm someone who does not
Mm,
prefer going out, and
mm,
I don't like parties, and
mm,
I'm not that really interested in such
mm.
things. So I always wondered how I could kind of have friends sitting at
Right.
home. That my dad always
Wow.
used to say, unless you go out,
Yeah.
you can't make friends. I really was not
Mm.
very keen on that, but but I knew that I wanted friends, I wanted a certain kind
Right.
of environment, a certain
Mm,
kind of community
mm.
where I can grow as an individual. Like I said earlier, when we are ready,
Right.
we really want to do so many things.
Correct.
And I
True.
think community is where
Mm,
your environment is stronger than your intention,
mm,
is what we
mm,
get told all the time.
mm.
So this is exactly when this positive community came about, and I've met so many of you, people who are starting, people
Mm,
who are in that struggling phase, people who already achieved so many things, people who are
mm,
in that.
mm,
I The one thing that kept me going were these very people. I know that you
mm,
and I did a lot of challenges
mm,
together, and there were so many times, and you continue to do certain
mm,
things. See, this is where the power of community lies.
mm,
I'm Even now I'm very hesitant when it comes to
mm.
social media, but you did it for
Right.
365 days and more.
Mm.
Your Facebook Live, it was an inspiration.
True.
See, this is what happens when I'm not doing it, and yet I'm
Mm.
watching somebody.
Right.
I am kind of subconsciously programming it in
Mm.
my mind that it's okay, I need to do that,
Right.
because there's so much to give to others, and there's so
Mm.
much to teach, so much to build on.
Right.
So I think that's where community matters. The way
Mm.
you used to text us when we were actually
Mm.
doing freedom finishers,
Mm.
a challenge,
Mm.
and I got stuck, and you
Mm.
were there to help me
Yeah.
out, and I had some of the problems, and somebody else from the community came in.
Mm.
So it kind of starts small, but it kind of
Yeah.
starts getting wider.
Mm.
um, and you feel so happy that you're actually talking to people who
Mm.
think like you, who
Right.
have who are far sighted in terms of improvements,
Mm.
giving back to
Mm.
what the other, involve others, better others.
Right.
So that's why community matters.
Mm.
So this was my first time when I saw that
Mm.
there are so many
Mm.
people just like me out there.
Yeah.
So
True.
it was fantastic. And
Amazing. Amazing.
that is where you also make connections, that is where you make
Mm.
friends.
Mm.
uh, and this is also where I want to say a huge
Mm.
thank you, because I met one of my
Right.
closest friends and mentors, Veena, and it was through you.
Right.
We meet almost, we try and
Mm.
talk. It's also, it becomes so important for us to converse
Mm. Yeah.
with other
Very true.
coaches, just to see what we can do, how
Mm.
we can level
Mm.
our game up, or what
Yeah.
is it that sometimes there are so many ideas buzzing in, but I'm
Correct.
someone who doesn't take action immediately. But to
Mm.
counter that, if there is someone like Veena, or
Mm.
someone like you, I'll come to what you said just last week.
Mm.
It kind of triggers things. It may not happen the way I envisioned it, but there's
Mm.
something else that I would do, but that would eventually work out.
Right. Oh.
And if you remember, we had a conversation last week.
Mm.
You said just replace the word think with something else.
Mm.
At that point of time, I thought feeling was the word. You and I had
Right.
this conversation,
Yeah.
but eventually, I kind of understood what I need to do. And yeah, it has. See,
Right.
this is one of the actions
Right.
that's
So
happening. And yeah, yeah,
just a little context here. What so when we were having a conversation last week, and we were, I think, also setting up the the context for today's podcast, right?
yes,
And you were also saying, I yes, I want to create more content, and in that you and through the conversation you use the word think a lot. Where you said, I
yes.
think, right? I think.
Mm, mm,
Now, of course, because of my background in, being able to understand language differently,
mm,
and a lot of this stems from NLP or neuro linguistic programming, and then of course eventually hypnosis as well. So it's a combination of the two.
right.
But largely, I would say NLP or neuro linguistic programming has played a role in the awareness of you know of language, of how people speak, what people
Mm,
speak, what words people speak.
mm,
And
mm,
so typically when someone uses the word think a lot,
mm,
there's a lot of processing that's still happening, which means, how do I mean that? If someone is quote unquote procrastinating, a
mm,
lot of times the think is what you're leading with,
mm,
right?
mm.
Meaning in your mind you're sort of like trying to solve the equation before writing out the equation, right?
Yes,
In
yes.
school that can still work because we're only talking math, but
Mm,
in like beyond school, when we are obviously as coaches especially, there are so many things that we are building, right? And
mm,
so
mm,
unless we build it first and then make adjustments, it'll never really get built in the
mm.
short run. When you zoom out, like you were saying, in 2018 you were thinking of it but you didn't,
Yes.
right? And the difference is today you're doing a lot more than just the thinking, right?
Mm,
Again, how do I
mm.
know this? Because somebody here also, for the longest time has followed that principle, uh, which is why,
Yeah.
like, even for example, even this pod, it's not perfect, but
Mm,
I've realized that I'd rather keep the wheels turning.
mm,
And over the course of the year, like, I've already set myself 100 podcasts this year, so I know somewhere between podcast 10 and 15 or 10 and 20 it'll be different from the first 5 or the first 10. And
right.
then
Right.
therefore, between podcast 80 and podcast 90, there will be a difference, and definitely compared to the first 3, 5, 10, whatever, right? So coming back to what I was sharing with you, that there's some people who will say, I see, like, they use a
Mm,
lot of the C word, right? I
mm,
see
mm,
this happening, or I can hear this happening. For me,
mm,
hearing is a lot of it. And of course, with, some amount of self-training, it's also the feeling. So I feel that this is going to work and I just do it, right? It may or
mm,
may not
mm.
work.
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So when I heard you, so that's why I had to, I couldn't stop myself. Finally I said, Archana, can I just say something? Like, I heard you use this word over and over again as
Yeah.
an expression. What if you were to re like change that word for something else,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
You can pick
Yes.
whatever word that is, and then just test. Don't take my word for it. Test it out for an entire week and
Yes.
see what was the result.
Hmm.
Test it out
Hmm.
for a week and you know listen to what the feedback has been from people who would have experienced something that you did, right? So that was the
Yes.
intention behind. I know it's a slightly longer explanation, but I think it's very. I think it's very very important, and I feel, because I feel that
Huh.
we are doing this in service of other people who are watching this now live, and of course later as a recording. I truly believe that this kind of change is what we are talking about, right? These are the incremental changes. Go ahead.
Yes, yes, and that is why community plays such an important role, right?
Mm,
Because if we weren't in a community, I wouldn't have met you.
mm,
And when changes that you are you really want to see yourself with is possible when you do have other people, and when you
mm,
look, we learn through visuals, right? Visual
mm,
learning is one of the most
mm,
powerful forms. When
mm,
you're looking at other people do it,
mm,
that is when you also feel motivated, and
mm,
that is when, so let's say for example, you gave me this important, you know such an important thing to change.
mm,
Instead of thinking, why can't you replace it, it's a
mm,
very small thing but might have a huge impact.
mm.
Imagine if I had wasn't here at all, if I hadn't met
Right.
you, I would probably be somewhere else without help. So I think the power of community, the kind of environment you create
Mm,
yourself around you, is so important in terms of of
mm.
self growth, yes, but even as
Yeah.
at the end of it, coaching is a
Mm,
business. So
mm.
for that too,
Yeah.
when you make contacts, when you make
Yeah.
those collaborations,
Correct.
when you have these conversations, when you
Mm,
tell your other coaches that this is what I'm going through, and they give you
mm,
that one small thing
mm,
to replace, or maybe try,
mm,
it,
mm.
it plays a huge role. So
Beautiful.
community, I
Yeah.
understood the power of community only when I got into one.
Mm, nice. So I'm also curious to know how this has translated into the work that you do. Meaning, from
Hmm.
a context, let's say from the lens of community,
Hmm.
one is, like you said, you're being part of a community, and so you've met and you've not only established, but you've built some really strong connections, right?
Yes.
The
Yes.
other part is, like, I'm curious to know how this has translated into, as you said, the business side of what you do, meaning that you're running,
Hmm.
we'll come to that in a moment about the specific programs that you're running, but in doing so, what role has community played? Meaning, like, what, so it's like a simple way of asking is, like, what kind of a community have you built?
Hmm.
Because um, it's very specific to your audience, right?
Yes. Yes.
So do share that a
Yes.
bit.
Right. Okay. It is so. First, there is no denying that community plays a huge role,
Hmm.
but the challenges that I face, especially in my niche, being with children, is it becomes really difficult
Hmm.
to make a group of kids
Correct.
talk to each other, maybe ever so often, because they
Hmm.
are from different mindsets, they are from different age groups,
Hmm.
and it really requires that effort a lot more than
Hmm.
what we might want to create with
Hmm.
just adults.
Hmm.
So this is this was and has been one of my biggest challenges,
Hmm.
that I can't really create a
Right.
community around kids, but not yet, at least.
Hmm.
But this is also the need of the hour,
Hmm.
because imagine if we can thrive in such a positive
Correct.
environment,
Hmm.
how it would be for kids when they are in an environment
Correct.
where all of them express their ideas, and
Hmm.
the entire thing here is to build that confidence to
Hmm.
speak well. So imagine the kind of transformation
Yeah.
that children can go through, or probably
Mm.
that the kind of shift that happens in their
Mm.
especially impressionable minds
Correct.
at this time and age. So yes, I'm really looking to see if I can do this. I'm still kind of working towards it.
Mm.
It is challenging, yes, but
Mm.
uh, I think I'm not using the word think much, but
Mm.
the right start would be to have a community for the parents first,
Mm.
and that's what I have
Right.
done right now in a
Mm.
very small way. I've started doing this because all these days I I used I've done only cohorts
Mm.
as my way of
Mm.
training children.
Mm.
So to have that community for parents where they can understand that there is a specific group
Mm.
only discussing confidence speaking,
Mm.
the kind of expression that a
Mm.
child has to have, and that safe space where the
Mm.
child can do it without rules, and
Mm.
without kind of the someone with a stick.
Mm.
uh,
Y-
However,
Mhm.
to get children from different age groups on one particular
Right.
platform is a little challenging.
Correct.
Why? Because they have different timings, they have
Mm.
different some of them are really young,
Mm.
some because I do multiple programs. So that is the challenge as of
Mm.
now, but I wouldn't say it is impossible.
Mm.
Probably at a future point of time, I would love to probably have all these
Yeah.
children interact with each
Mm.
other, because that way they are meeting more, and
Correct.
we know how important it is for them to get off
Yeah.
their screens,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
um, especially the virtual world that they live
Mm.
in. So
Y-
so
y-
an interaction with real
Correct.
human beings is what
Mm.
my aim is
Awesome.
when it
I'm
comes
actually
to.
reminded of
Mm,
when we talk about community, and obviously from a model perspective, it's been around for a while.
mm,
When you think of dance studios, from 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago, like you
mm,
have this one, let's say a summer recital. So you'll have people who are in your existing batch, plus you're reaching out to people who've already been with
mm.
you in the past and learned from you. And
Yes.
so it's an opportunity for everybody to come together and showcase their skills in a
Mm,
certain context, right? So when it's dance, it's
correct.
like even if you've been a past student, like an alumni,
Mm, mm,
you have an opportunity to be in one. I'm just thinking out loud. It's like like you in the back in the days, you had this uh, 24 hours telethon sort of a thing, right? Obviously,
mm,
in
mm.
in the relevant way for kids. I'm not saying kids doing a 24-hour telethon, but I'm saying
Right, right.
it's like an opportunity where, like you said, you have every time when you have a batch, you've got that one form
Mm,
of community, and
mm.
then maybe like this once in a year where there's a reason for everybody to come together, and of course they are practicing their skills that they've learned, right?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, yeah,
mm,
yeah. That I guess is definitely something that we can
mm,
work at. However, like I said, it needs a little bit
correct.
of
Yeah.
working around. But
Mm,
yes, this is a brilliant idea. I think
mm,
I would love to have one maybe biannual or annual
correct.
program that
Correct.
all the kids can come through. But
Exactly.
uh, yeah, but the idea here is to have that time with
Mm,
everybody talking, everybody
mm,
interacting,
right.
where they share their thoughts, they share
Mm,
their opinions, and because it becomes so important for them to
mm,
voice it out.
mm,
um, uh, they are increasingly sticking to just
right.
messaging, or
Yeah.
they are on Snapchat and this and that. But when it comes to physical interactions, or when
Mm,
it comes to interacting live with someone else,
yeah.
they find it really difficult.
True.
So I would probably want to
Mm,
start doing the work that is
mm,
required
nice.
uh, to and I think this would help them bond, and
Mm,
eventually the idea that you gave me now in terms of culminating into a
mm,
an annual meet would be really good.
mm,
But because by then there'll be enough
correct.
interactions for them also too. I think it's really good,
Yeah.
something that yeah, i'm
Yeah.
i'm, I'm gonna
And
see how I
I'll
can work
share this
this
with
out.
you. Like the one of the reasons why I've started to like put myself into a state to welcome ideas is because this happened maybe a couple of months ago. Like it just kind of came together like this
Hmm,
with all the many different experiments over the years. Is the concept of basically, in my mind, I'm zooming out.
Hmm. Hmm.
Otherwise it can be very overwhelming, because when you're seeing things, you're seeing people, seeing other coaches on their journeys, and the brain, it's like what we talk about FOMO. FOMO is
Hmm.
not just only the fear of missing out. It's the where we kind of use those triggers to go and tap into the parts of us that we don't like, right?
Correct.
It's one thing to say,
Yes.
oh, they are having it, let me also join. That's one. But here
Yeah.
it's more like, the feelings of lessness. Like I feel
Huh.
less in A, B, C areas in my life when I'm seeing them, right? And so it's almost like an antidote that just kind of came into my mind, which is, let me zoom out,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Yes, I want to
Okay.
do this in X amount of time, right?
Okay.
Yes, I want to do so many podcasts, whatever it is, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yes, I want to run a practitioner course later this year, for example.
Hmm. Hmm.
But when I feel that it's like I'm starting to get overwhelmed, and
Hmm.
obviously, like you shared in your story as well earlier, uh, it was like, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this, and it's like, let me, take everything and put it on my cart, and then
Yes.
and then what, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the antidote that sort of came to me was the ability now to be able to zoom out.
Hmm.
So when I
Hmm.
zoom out, and I'm
Hmm.
like, this moment in the context of the next 5 years,
Hmm.
it automatically is reducing the significance.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like hearing your story, it just kind of reminded me of sharing this, because this idea didn't come just like that. It's come after many many years of many different experiments, and also realizing that, as digital coaches and healers, in many senses of the word, I believe that, to create true transformation, healing is a major part of it. So,
Hmm.
whether you're into, wellness, fitness, you're into, communication, like, as it's, officially called public speaking, or whatever it be, in the truest sense, you're able to maximize, you're able to do your maximum uh, work when you're, tapping into that healing, um,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
healing arts, shall we say.
Hmm.
So it's like being able to be present to somebody else is the healing sometimes, right? Being able to, of course, use tools to create that healing is also healing, right? But healing is such an important part, and especially, like you say, like you said, like when you're working with kids, that's a massive component.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm just, sharing this with you, that every little thing matters, and it
Matters.
grows, and it comes, by
Yes.
you're talking about grit earlier, by staying
Hmm.
the course, right? and
Yes.
and now, of course, the realization that, let me zoom out, let me not think of, oh my god, if I don't do this in the next 30 days, what? Zoom out. 3
Yeah.
months,
Yeah.
6
Yeah.
months, 2 years. So in the 2-year context, what's this, right? And it gives me a moment to breathe, because that energy is what I can take back into what I'm doing.
Correct.
If you ask me,
Correct.
that's one of the reasons why the 365 days plus
Hmm.
happened. And then, of course, that led to all the different things that, I've been
Yes.
very, I feel I've been very, blessed and fortunate to create, including this podcast, right? So,
Yes.
yeah. So,
Yeah. I
so,
I think I feel like, we have to connect back to
mm,
what we were discussing about
mm-hmm,
community.
mm-hmm,
See, let's take your example,
mm-hmm,
365 days. You kept yourself accountable.
mm, mm,
Now, let's say you commit to doing something and you have a community.
mm,
It's become so important for us to, and they are also like our accountability.
yeah,
We need to be accountable to
correct.
what we promise, or
Yeah,
we you kind of what we
absolutely.
commit to us,
Yeah,
and to doing
yeah.
something. So whether it is, being grounded,
Mm,
keeping your, ear to the ground,
yeah,
listening to what exactly is required, all this
true.
I think connects back to
Very true.
the community. Yeah.
Yeah.
This
I,
is,
I,
yeah,
I
I
discovered this along, I didn't know it going in, but I discovered it
mm,
along the way, that I was doing it for this one coach out there, or this one person on their coaching journey, that, you know what, and I actually say it now, on my daily pod. It's like one of the reasons why I show up every day, that sort of when we talk about accountability in a slightly different perspective, which is I'm doing this, in spite of whatever my day may have been, or whatever, my what's going on in my mind or whatever. I do it. I do the daily showing up because I know that this message, whatever the messages of the day, will make a difference to other people.
Yes.
And this
Even
in
if it is just for that one
exactly,
particular person.
exactly, right. So it's like literally in the context of the train ride. So similarly, it's like every day is that moment where I'm showing up, and I'm not just talking about, it's not a flex. It's just I'm here to share something that I noticed, or it could have been a conversation, or maybe inspired by, say, today's podcast, right? So that message I know will serve more than just me having an opportunity to, to develop my own voice as a coach, right? Um, I know that it is making an impact on many people, and I don't have to figure out how. So
Yes.
whether it is, let's say, a little more on the esoteric side or whatever it be, to me, that doesn't matter. Right? I know that it's not in. I'm not doing it in service of me. Which was like I was sharing with you. The reason why I asked you about community is because for the longest time, over these last 20 plus years of my journey, for the longest time, it was a lot of it was driven in service of me. So I didn't create a community 20 years ago because I was like, I want to, be able to freely come and go, right? Uh, and today, of course, after all these years of many different experiments, and realizations, that I know that this work that we're doing is it definitely serves us. Don't get me wrong there, but it's driven with the intention of making a difference in the lives of others. That's where uh, I finally had that penny drop. It's like, okay, I get it now.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so I,
It's going beyond us.
yes, yeah, exactly. So I'd love to know, since you talked about community and, the way you are working with kids, uh, it's like conventionally, this is that part where I'd ask you, like, how can people get in touch with you, and what do you do? Of course, the social handles, I mean, that I've anyway shared that, and I will reshare that. But more importantly, what is the program that you're currently running, and like, how did that program come about? Like, uh, what's the spark that created the program?
Yes. Okay. I love this because I am truly, when I say passionate about
Mm,
changing certain things when it comes to children, I really mean it. Like I said before, it happened
mm,
with my own child.
correct.
It started at home.
Mm,
And first it was more about, you need to do this, you need to do
mm,
that. But slowly I realized that children are so different,
correct.
and so open to
Mm,
what we teach.
mm,
So it started with her. It started
right.
with my daughter.
Mm,
And slowly I realized that this is something, especially when it comes to speaking, when
right.
it comes to conversations,
Mm,
when it comes to, probably a simple thing where, nowadays children have project presentations even in classrooms.
mm,
So, just a simple thing like
mm,
that, a lot of our children are so scared
right.
to stand in front of
True.
maybe even 10
Mm,
others and speak. This kind of, carries on toward to, across, the grades that they move on. And eventually, since I've trained college students too,
mm,
for campus
correct.
campus to corporate,
Correct.
I know that this kind of reflects, or
Mm,
it is something that is carried throughout.
right.
And these are the very kids who are very scared of their maybe university
Mm,
interviews, or interviews where they want to go get land jobs. and
mm,
and also, this again goes into their own adult life, where they are very scared of making presentations even at a corporate
mm,
level, or whatever it is, when they have to present their ideas, or sales and marketing, whatever it is. So the root is communication, and if we can change that at their at this level,
mm,
impressionable age between 6 and 16 years,
mm,
it is going to I hope it might help them in their adult life.
Mm.
So when start young is what they say,
Nice.
and that is why I'm so passionate about
Mm.
start helping them
Mm.
at least kind of voice out what they think.
Right.
So we start with stories because children love stories. So
Mm.
mine is not a way where I will sit, make people sit and
Mm.
children sit and listen to me and do what I say.
Mm.
Absolutely not.
Mm.
Our classes are more fun. We have
Mm.
fun, we have games.
Nice.
And it's important for them to have fun while they learn, and when we are having
Mm.
fun we learn better. So my programs have stories uh, to the maximum level.
Mm.
I start with it, and eventually I have trained some of the kids who've spoken
Mm.
at the TEDx platform.
Mm.
But to get there, it is so important to take that first
Mm.
step. So the program I'm running right now is mastering confidence and communication through the art of storytelling.
Nice.
So that's my
Mm.
program in a nutshell.
Mm.
And what we do here, we take children, and there are different age groups that I segregate them
Mm.
into 6 to 8 years, or 6 to 10 years
Mm.
is one age group, and 11 to 16, where that also is split up. If I
Right.
have more kids between 11 and 14, I put them in, and 14 and above, I put them into a different group.
Nice.
So
Mm.
each group has a different has a different mindset.
Mm.
They have a different level of understanding. So I usually you know make my program suitable for their age
Mm.
groups. So they learn, yes, they do learn the art of speaking, they
Mm.
learn the art of storytelling, they learn the art of debating, but in a fun manner. But
Nice.
I also believe that it's extremely essential for children to learn this. I wish it was
Mm.
a part of their curriculum, but it isn't.
Right.
Although some of the schools are introducing it now, but
Mm.
not all schools, and it becomes so important to give them that undivided attention, because children
Correct.
need that
Mm.
attention. If I do a 30 group, a class of 30
Mm.
children, they'll just get lost.
Correct.
So my programs are all very small
Mm.
in size. I
Mm.
don't take more than 6 to 7 children in one
Mm.
class.
Mm.
That way I'm able to kind of, and they also bond better
Mm.
uh, if it is a small group of
Mm.
children.
Nice.
So that's what I do,
Mm.
Rahul. I know through the, it's not just, see, I do all the four. It's so important for children to
Mm.
listen, listen, read, and write, and
Mm.
then speak. So
Mm.
in that manner, we are training them to
Right.
even write. So there's a little bit of creative writing
Mm.
also
Nice.
in the classes that I do.
Mm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
eh, So let's hope that
Mm.
a lot of parents, and here I also want to kind of, I want to say it's something a little off
Mm.
than what we are discussing. It's so important for parents to realize
Yes.
that this is an important skill
Mm.
for the children to develop. Sometimes they think, oh, it's an after school activity. I mean, we'll do it if there's
Mm.
nothing else to do. Well, not quite. This is in line with what your child is doing at school academically, because it's going to help them
Mm.
maneuver through the challenges there that they
Mm.
face
Mm.
at school, be it project
Mm.
presentations or maybe just a poem, the recitation classes,
Mm.
anything it is. That confidence should
Right.
come, and that needs to be
Mm.
kind of inculcated. The habit of speaking up, the
Mm.
habit of you know um, of course all of us are scared of public speaking. Even
Sure.
today when we stand in front of
Mm.
someone, we're scared
Of
to
course.
speak. I mean, if there are not
Mm.
15 people looking at you,
Mm.
even as adults we are
Mm.
scared. But how to kind of make peace with that fear and yet deliver is the art of public
Mm.
speaking. So I think that needs to, that muscle, that public speaking skills muscle that
Mm.
is there, needs to be um, uh, trained.
Right.
And children are, I'll tell you, so good at it. They
Mm.
are like sponges, they
Mm.
absorb just like that. and
Mm.
and it's so much more easier for them
Mm.
to be molded the way we,
Right.
because they're so impressionable. they
Mm.
they're so full of energy and the questions, and
Mm.
that inquisitiveness is important to
Mm.
be channelized in a positive way.
Correct.
So that's my program. For
Mm.
anyone, I think you will leave the links
Yeah,
so
I
they can
will. I
just get
will.
in touch with
Just a
me. And
question here. Is
yeah.
there something that you, I know you kind of, momentarily you kind of mentioned it, but is there anything in particular that you'd love for parents to know I mean, you've talked more from a child's perspective,
Yes,
but
yes.
is there something that for especially whether it's coaches or
Mm.
parents, coaches
Mm.
who are parents even,
Yeah, yeah.
is there something that you'd love to, because you're on the other side, on the inside
Yes,
literally, is there something that you'd love to
yes.
share with them which can help them on their journey?
Yes, two things when it comes to self development. I think we as adults, parents, are so aware of what we want.
Mm,
I want to learn this, I want to grow, I want to become
mm,
a better individual. But when it comes to children, I have seen that most of
mm,
these coaches, trainers, mentors, or whoever it is, they don't really understand that it is important for the child also to grow.
mm,
And it's so important that you sow that seed into your child's
mm,
mind that there's something beyond academics also.
right.
It is not just, oh, yes, you take them for sports classes, you drop them at school, but it is so important for
Mm,
them to develop their communication skills.
mm,
Because eventually, if let's say a coach today has, or a mentor today has a community is
mm,
is working towards it,
mm,
eventually the child will follow
mm,
uh, the parent, and
mm,
it is important for the child to learn too.
mm,
So it's not just about the adults seeking some kind of self growth.
mm,
They kind of, sometimes I've seen in the interactions that some of the parents don't realize that the children
mm,
also need to grow.
sure.
And what better than
Mm,
teach them different things and
mm,
put them into classes that will help the child grow. That's the first thing.
mm,
And the second is, most of these parents, like I said earlier, they treat it as an after school program,
yeah,
although
true.
it is one of the most important things. There are certain skill sets
Mm,
that are really required and are essential, not just a hobby. That, for
mm,
example, public speaking,
mm,
creative writing. There are so many other things, right?
mm,
In fact, something as simple as journaling, if
mm,
you can start them young,
right.
it'll do wonders
Wow.
as they grow up.
Mm, wow. Amazing.
Mm.
Like for me personally, there are like these two, like usually we talk about pet peeves. These are like these, for me, these are two,
Mm.
um, I guess I'll call them two pet projects, like things
Mm-hmm.
that I really, really believe in and that that matter to me. And that's
Mm.
also what kind of, in a way, gave rise or gave birth to this,
Mm.
this
Mm.
podcast. And so one is, of course, community.
Mm.
The other is we've kind of talked about it briefly in different forms, which is NLP or neuro linguistic programming, right?
Yes.
It's like today the work that I do is driven with what I call the Brahmastra of
Mm.
hypnosis, but that
Mm.
happened
Mm.
because of my journey going deeper and deeper into the world of NLP,
Mm.
right?
Mm. Mm.
So I'd love to know, because you're talking language, because you've obviously, you've spent a fair bit of time learning, marketing psychology, sales psychology, and I know you attended, several different programs. So I'd love
Mm.
to
Mm.
know, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I had no clue
Mm-hmm.
about what NLP is about
Mm,
until 2018.
mm,
That is when I got to know about it.
mm,
But there are so many of us absolutely, clueless
mm,
about neuro-linguistic programming, and it
mm,
is so important. Uh, I think you and I were having a conversation about
mm,
this. It becomes important for us to understand ourselves first.
mm,
So tapping into our own thought process is so important. So the
mm,
first brush, so to speak, I had with NLP is MMI when
mm,
I attended that, and I didn't even know it. This was
mm,
very recently, just
correct.
last year, that I attended MMI. Of course, I knew what NLP was about, but how it's done, what
Mm,
it does to you, and how powerful it
mm,
is something that I realized after attending
correct.
MMI by Success Camp.
And for
So,
context, it is the Millionaire Mind
minds,
Intensive, right? It's a
yeah, Millennium Mind Intensive.
3-day
Yes.
program focused on uh, our money beliefs primarily. But obviously, money as adults, literally bleeds into everything,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Whether it is our health, our wealth, or our
mm,
ultimately happiness is like
mm,
money or the lack of it, or the the positive or the negative beliefs that we have about money tends
mm.
to color our view of the world. So as you rightly
Yeah.
said, in the MMI context, there's a lot of framing, there's a lot of um, references and the tools of NLP or neuro linguistic programming that are blended in beautifully. So
Mm,
yeah.
mm. And I think it was barely scratching the
Mm,
surface, if I may say so.
mm,
I don't know much about it, but then I came back, researched quite a lot, and
mm,
saw that it's a huge ocean,
mm.
where you can actually make use of such tools
Correct.
to better
Yeah.
yourself. So that's the first thought I had
Mm,
about NLP. And the second thing that I, while researching, while understanding
mm,
what neurolinguistic
mm,
program was all about,
mm.
I also couldn't help but, see, as coaches, this is what we are thinking constantly.
Correct.
How can I better?
Yeah.
How can I make things better for our
Mm,
clients? How can I make things better for people whom we interact with?
correct.
So this kind of, I got to know that I had no clue, even as a child or even as an adult, what NLP was about.
Mm,
And it's the same with the children.
mm.
Imagine if we can help
Yeah.
children navigate their
True.
thoughts
Very true.
or understand. So just the way public speaking, I say,
Mm,
should be a part of curriculum, I wish NLP was
mm,
part of curriculum for children, because that's
mm.
where my thought process is always going. How
Yeah.
can we make it better so our children can
Mm,
become better? How can we make it useful so children can grow?
yeah.
So imagine if we can imagine, kind of bring in this concept
Mm,
and help children, because right now the biggest challenge all parents are facing is lack of focus,
mm.
lack of interaction,
True.
and lack of interest in anything when
Yeah.
it comes to kids.
Yeah.
But if we can use NLP, as
Mm,
a means
mm.
of channelizing it, uh, I can
Yeah.
only, kind of
Yeah.
imagine the kind of future we can
Yeah.
create, the adults that we can,
Mm,
make them into.
mm,
So I'm so looking forward
mm.
to what you have to say about. I would want to know your thoughts
Sure.
first,
Sure.
Rahul,
Yeah.
in terms of how NLP can help children.
Mm.
Because I'm very selfish. I want to I want
Yeah.
to think about
100%.
kids.
100%.
And the second one here is, what are your thoughts about? I'm asking a question back to
Mm,
you. Um what are your thoughts of making it much more, you know,
mm.
known to
Correct.
everyone than, just like
Yeah.
you said, it's in very nascent stages
Mm.
right now. So two questions
Yeah.
for you from
So I'll
from me.
I'll start with a resource. As I was
Mhm,
listening to you, I was reminded of somebody who I had heard of like from way back in 2012.
mhm,
So she's so obviously now we're talking more than a decade ago of more than a decade of being in this space working with kids.
mhm,
Somebody called Kate Benson. So you can
mhm,
definitely Google her and find out, because I know that her journey with NLP began even before 2012. So I did my NLP practitioner course in fact technically it was the master practitioner course that I started with Richard Bandler and Dr. Richard Bandler, the co-creator of NLP. Like this is way
NLP,
back
yeah.
in 2012 in the US. And
Okay.
at that point itself, she had started to focus primarily on NLP for kids.
Mm, mm,
So I'm
mm,
sure there will be a lot of, written material. There would be a lot of videos. I think there's even a book or two that's come out. And I've not been tracking her progress over like
mm,
extensively, over the last decade plus. But I'm sure
mm,
you'll find a lot of information. And the good thing with Google and even YouTube for that matter is when you start searching, it'll aggregate. So you'll get more in that same vein or that same light, right? So that would be one response right away. That definitely, she's somebody
right,
who's
right.
like at the top of her game in focusing on NLP specifically for kids. Uh,
Yes, but
mhm.
I would also like to know your take
Correct.
on how important it
Exactly.
is.
So
Yeah.
that's the second part,
Mm,
right? So,
mm, mm,
uh, like it's like saying, don't just take my word for it. Here is an expert, and
mm,
I'm
mm,
sure,
mm.
like her, there are
Yes,
many that have
yes.
also been awoken when they had this experience with NLP. We're like, yeah, you know what? I want to focus on kids. So, from a
Mm,
specialist point of view, these are some of the
Perfect.
resources.
Perfect.
Now, adding to that, like I said, for me to pick out that one word when I was asking you about, every time you say think, change it to a different word and see what
Mm,
happens. Right?
mm,
Don't take my word for
mm.
it. See how your interactions are. See how you feel
Right.
over the course of a week, right? And that's how
Mm,
crazy words are, right? It's like
mm,
words truly are feelings, meaning
mm,
if we are conscious of the words that we're using, we can change our
mm,
feelings. It's
mm,
as
mm.
simple as that, right? There is one
Right.
school of thought which is if you change your physicality, which means if, like you said, kids sitting in front of their or kids glued to their screens all the time, quote unquote, and then making time for exercise and being active can change their mood. It's
Yes.
in many ways it's more even more subtle in that sense and more obvious at the same time when it comes to words. So the
Mm,
words that we use today as adults, whether it is being positive words or negative
mm,
words or highly optimistic words or pessimistic words, right? These are
mm,
things that we
mm,
didn't learn overnight.
mm,
It's been
mm,
in our
mm.
language, like we use our expression shabdakosha, right, in our dictionaries
Mm.
for
Yes.
decades.
Yes.
And the difference is, unlike you, they did not have, or we didn't have teachers back then who were able to
Yes.
stop us when we were using words that were, let's say, more um, negative or pessimistic, right? I'm
Mm,
saying your
mm.
awareness in your journey is what is helping you shape the lives of these kids. And like
Yes.
literally 5, 10, 20 years later, they will look at you and say, Archana ma'am, you made that difference in my life, right?
Right.
So,
Yes.
so you can tell beyond the shadow of a doubt that I really do believe in the power of language and the power of words, and
Mm,
not just in a sort of feel good sort of way, but that
mm,
you actually can be able to change the way that you speak, right?
mm, mm,
So
mm.
in the most basic sense, you have, like, for example, you've got the visual words, the auditory words, the kinesthetic words. Like
Yes.
this is like sort of
Yes.
like NLP 101. But I'm going
Mm,
deeper than that, saying
mm,
from a
mm.
purely from a philosophical point of view, being aware that you can change how you feel by the words that you use
Yes.
means that it doesn't matter what's happened till now. Like if
Yes.
a kid
Mm,
is
mm.
kid comes to you, or let's say a kid is having a tough time right now, it is because of the last 3 weeks, 3
Mm,
months, 3 years,
mm,
okay, maybe max 5 years, right?
mm,
Typically,
mm.
I'm not talking about
Yeah.
a young kid, right? Which
Mm,
means
mm.
that you can actually start now and teach the kid from this moment on to change the way they speak,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And not in some airy fairy, be positive kind of way of saying it. You're actually teaching them the language. You're teaching them the building blocks of these words, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that is what will become. It's like basically they get to do, it's like when you go to the gym, right? They get to do
Mm,
more reps as kids, so that by the time they reach college, by the time they I don't know what the work scene will be 10 years from now, so I'm not even going to comment on it. Because like they say, that didn't age very well. So who knows
yeah.
what the work scene will be 10 years from now, 15 years from now. So
Yeah.
a kid who is between 5 and 10 years old today is going to have a
Mm,
very different world 20 years from now,
mm,
right? With
mm.
technology and AI and all of this, that's just only like doubling and quadrupling every moment in terms of the
Yes.
impact, in terms of shaping the world, right? So coming back to the
Mm,
point, NLP in the specifically in the context of words can make a huge difference. And that's also the reason why I've made it a point, I myself was taking my time and I didn't feel I was right, or it was right till recently.
mm.
And then of course, this is where again, it's like they say, you always listen to your clients, right? So you were talking about Veena, like it was a conversation with her
Yes.
that kind of, that for me, that was that penny drop. And I was like, okay,
Mm,
it's like
mm.
these last 15 plus years of, like, my journey with NLP began in 2007. So it's like,
Wow.
it's what is it, like 17 years of the journey. And I
Yeah.
realized that, okay, like now is that moment to make it more accessible, to create a community for, of course, primarily coaches who are on the journey and who can be benefited, just like in your context, for kids who can be benefited. I believe
mm,
that coaches, and I call it the 5 streams, right? There's health, wealth, relationships, spirituality, and purpose. So
mm,
as a coach, you may be teaching in any one of these areas, or a combination, but having
mm,
the skills of NLP, which is linguistically,
mm.
you can change the impact that you have on people,
Wow.
right? That's my So
Yes.
when you talk about a mission, when you talk about the purpose, right? To me, that's what makes me show up every day, right? I may not be like 100% every single day, because at the end of the day, we are all human beings. We have our ups and our downs and all of that. But this is where that zoom out works.
Mm,
So it's like,
mm.
so technically, no more bad days, right?
Yeah.
Meaning you have moments, but
Yes.
being able to zoom out and you're like, okay, breathe,
Right.
and then it's like
Yeah.
reload, and you get back in.
Mm,
And this is where grit, this is where being persistent, this is where keep coming back. And when you zoom out and you look at it, it's like, wow, it's been 6 months, wow, it's been a year. And the number of people that have been, you know let's say, watching your journey, get to be inspired, and therefore they also are on their journey, right? They didn't give up, they didn't quit.
yeah.
Even if they
Mm,
did, they came back. That's what drives me. And all of this, I know, in a large part, is because of my experiences with NLP, of applying it in my life. And like I said, today I feel one with the intention of making this available to more and more people, right? And thanks to
okay.
the online world that we live in, and of
Yes.
course, when in the community context, it will eventually be a combination of online and offline. But
Mm, mm.
at least today, there's a way to reach more people, to be able to get more people
Yes.
to experience it, so that they
Yes.
can see how they can use it in their own chosen fields, their own vocations, like that. They really feel like, yeah, I want to work in health. You can
Mm,
use NLP, if
mm,
even if nothing else, linguistically. It doesn't mean everybody has to use process, right?
mm,
In a healing context, there's process, but in a
mm,
language context, there's a lot of transformation that you can create. It's like you said,
mm.
going back to the train ride, I didn't know consciously what I was doing when I was having the conversation with you, but that was instrumental in your thought process. And it kind of like made you say, yeah, you know what? I think now I'm ready to make that leap,
Yes.
right? To take
Yes.
that leap of faith. So
Mm,
that's
mm.
what keeps me coming back every day. And you could probably tell I speak from my heart, and I really truly believe that this, like the combination of NLP and hypnosis, is something that it's a gift. It's something that I've been gifted, and I get to just go deeper and deeper, day on day, year on year. You know, like you said, more people need to know this. So that's my
Yeah.
intention, to keep flying that flag, so more people see it from further and further away and are drawn in to learn it and apply it. I think that, if
Yes.
finally, it's like, public speaking, it's all about application. It's not about only
Yes.
watching videos of people who are great speakers.
Yes.
It's, I'm sure, what you're doing,
Yes.
like you said, it's the reading, it's the writing,
Mm,
it's the speaking, right?
mm.
It's eventually, it is standing up there and taking a chance, right? You're doing it
Yes.
every day, and so that in turn is inspiring them.
Well put. Well put. So I think if I may,
Hmm.
kind of,
Sure.
um, I think it's like equipping
Yeah.
yourself
Yeah.
to use it in whatever way you'd like. For example, I would want my children to be equipped
Hmm.
to deal with whatever the situation is 20 years from now, right? So I
100%.
think it's
100%.
beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you
So
for this.
it's
It's
been an
and
absolute pleasure, and I'm sure we will have many more conversations, online, offline, on
yes.
our many calls and conversations. And like I said, I mean, I truly, truly, truly believe that the right people will be found, and will
Yes.
find each other. And
Yes.
this um, this platform that came to me as an idea, which now I'm just growing literally day on day, week on week, to bring together truly amazing people who have a message, who are on message, and who genuinely want to make the world a better place. It's like,
Mm.
I remember that there's my business partner at a point in time on my journey. I would always say this line to her. It's like, so I would tell Anna, it's like, changing the world one person at a time. This is, of course,
Yes.
before COVID and the whole digital thing, right? Today we know it's not just one
Mm.
person at a time. It's like every moment
Yes.
it's an opportunity to create, to send out that the good vibe, to send it out into the universe without even really
Yes.
worrying or wondering, like, will it be heard, right? It's like
Yes.
when we zoom out, then there's
Mm.
no fear anymore. It's like I believe that
Mm.
it will reach exactly who it's meant to reach. And thank you for being
Well,
part of my my mission to let the right people find you, and to help you on your journey, and help you grow as literally each day, each year. I'm sure there's a lot more to come. I can feel it. I mean, and I've been quote unquote not accused, but I know I am very intuitive. So in this, I know that there's a lot more coming to you. So wish you all the very best on your journey, and thank you for taking the time. And yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what a part two looks like at some point on your journey. And again, the universe will bring us together at the right time, in the right context, I'm sure. So before, of course, we wrap up, is there anything that you'd like to share with people who are watching this, especially people who are watching this as a on YouTube as a podcast, or even listening to this as a podcast, because it is available both as a YouTube video podcast as well as an audio on YouTube Music, so amongst the many other platforms. So
yes, I'd like to, I think, wrap up by saying a huge thank you to you, Rahul, because I think without that conversation, things wouldn't
mm,
have probably got moving for me. That's the first thing. And second is, yes, thank you for today. It was an absolute pleasure having this
mm,
conversation. It was so
mm,
beautiful in so many levels, at so many levels rather. And I also realized that during our conversation, during the there are so many common challenges that we go through, especially
correct.
as coaches, but help
mm,
is available, is it is at
mm,
hand. It's just that we need to reach out to the right people, and like you said, yes, they will come along at the right point of
yes.
time. And I'd also like to a huge shout out to someone who you
mm,
introduced us to, Veena, because otherwise I don't think things
mm,
would really have fallen in place. So I want to thank you, because some people are
mm.
so important in our lives. So thank you for that. So three thank yous for you. And I'd also like to tell, especially coaches, that I'm also a swimmer.
Mm.
So keep swimming.
Nice.
It's so important for us to yes, we'll feel like drowning at that time sometimes, like how I said earlier, you drown too, but it's how
mm,
you come up, how you kind of get going. And it is important to understand that this is, yes, a journey, for many
mm.
years to come. Short term will never
Right.
work. It is something that we keep learning, we
mm,
keep growing, we keep
yes.
evolving ourselves. And yeah,
mm.
that's pretty much it. I do hope that as you grow, you take your children and help
Yeah,
them grow
true.
too, because it's so important. When they see you, they'll
mm,
imbibe much
mm.
more when they know that they are on the
Beautiful.
path too. So
Awesome.
don't ignore your children. Let them grow too.
Yeah. Grow and let them grow
Yeah,
too.
let them
Nice.
grow. Yes,
Nice.
yes, so
So
well
yeah,
put.
I
Yeah,
thank
thank
you
you,
once
Rahul.
again. And last but not the least, for those of you who are watching this later as a podcast, right? Thank you so much for tuning in, and especially for those of you, you who's literally watching this at this very moment as a recording, as a podcast. It means that you are different from the rest. You've literally stayed all the way till the end, and as someone that's done it many, many times, I want to thank you, and wish you all the very best on your journey. And just one final reminder, we do these podcasts like twice a week. So definitely watch out for them, listen to them, share them with other coaches, people who can benefit from this. And look forward to seeing you in the next podcast. And of course, as always, remember to live with purpose. See you in the next one. God bless. Bye bye.